Your ex said they missed you. I said they only miss the version of you they broke. They reached out. I reached in to all the pain they left behind. Your ghost still knows their number. I replied with silence, louder than any closure they deserved. They said, I still love them. I said, then why did they bleed alone? Their apology arrived too late. Grief already unpacked its bags. Your name trembled off their lips, like regret tasting its own medicine. I didn't reply with words. I replied with the truth you healed from. They wanted you back. I asked, would you return to the fire that burned you? Your ex reached out. I saw a storm pretending to be rain. I told them, you left. They lived. Don't you dare disturb their peace. Their message smelled like nostalgia dipped in guilt. I replied, they built peace without you. Leave it untouched. The same hands that let go now reach with trembling regret. I saw your name in their text. It felt like betrayal typed in lowercase. They called it love. I called it a lesson you already learned. I didn't need to ask. I saw how much they still want what they destroyed. They're glowing now, I said, because you stopped dimming them. They said you changed. I said, healing looks like betrayal to the ones who broke you. I replied with a mirror. They hated what they saw. I said your name like a prayer. They said it like a punishment. They wanted to reminisce. I wanted to protect you. I told them you moved on. Their silence screamed heartbreak. They regret. You rise, that's the difference. Their message came wrapped in what ifs. They reached out. I saw a pattern, not a person. They don't miss you, I said. They miss control. I asked, did you miss them before or after they stopped needing you? Your ex saw your glow and called it theirs. I replied, they don't belong to you anymore, not even in memory. They typed hi. I heard, I miss owning their softness. I replied with your silence. It shattered their ego. I asked them if they remembered your tears. They didn't. They reached out to relive. I replied to remind. I said, their soul outgrew your absence. You had them, I said. Now let them go. They said they've changed. I said, so has your ex, without you. I whispered your freedom into their guilt. They don't talk about you, I lied, to protect your peace. I answered with the strength you gained in their silence. They miss the you that stayed, not the you that left. I told them you left them starving Don't ask for their warmth. They're not waiting for you, I said. They became someone you'd never deserve. I replied with the love you now give yourself. They reached out. Your name carried the weight of their karma. They asked how you are. I said, free. Your ex knocked. I bolted the door with all your growth. Why now? I asked. Why only when they stopped needing you? I replied, you can't apologize to someone who learned to live without you. They wanted closure. I handed them a mirror. They wanted to explain. I wanted them to vanish. I replied with the look in your eyes the day you stopped breaking. Your name held thunder in their throat. They said they regret everything. I said, so does their younger self. I didn't reply with rage. I replied with your radiance. They healed, I said, and your name no longer stings. Your ex still talks like your softness is their right. I told them, you're just an echo now. They reached out like nothing happened. I replied like everything did. I asked, do you miss them or just the power you had? Their apology was stitched with manipulation. They wanted to reminisce. I wanted to protect your rebirth. I said, they cried for you. Where were you then? Their text felt like deja vu and danger. I replied with your silence, and it screamed louder than pain. I reminded them, you were a season. They became their own sun. They saw your worth too late. I told them, your ex no longer bleeds when you're mentioned. Their apology couldn't buy back the years. I replied with the peace they cost you. Yeah, and they don't miss you, I said. They miss who they were when you loved them. I asked them if they remembered the silence they gave you. They reached out to reconnect. I replied to remind them why you disconnected. I whispered, they glowed more after you left. I said, they've healed. Don't reopen the wound. Your name broke them, but it no longer breaks you. They tried to come back. I reminded them of the exit. I answered with all the love you now give yourself. They reached out in regret. I replied with your radiance. I didn't respond with rage. I responded with your healing. If this touched your soul, don't scroll, like, comment your favorite quote, and subscribe for more. They reached out. I replied with the silence you used to beg them for. Their message said, I miss them. I said, then why did they have to heal alone? I told them, you're just a scar in their story now. They wanted a second chance. I showed them the peace you built without them. I said, they cried oceans. You barely noticed the flood. Your name made them pause. Your healing made me proud. They asked about you. I said, you stopped bleeding. They regret everything. I reminded them you remember nothing about them fondly. Their apology was sweet, but your silence is sacred. I replied, they don't wait for people who leave. They missed your softness. I reminded them you gave it all away, and they still walked. I told them you're no longer a page in their story. You're a warning. Their message was a mirror. They didn't like what they saw. They asked if you still talk about them. I said, only to the universe, and only in gratitude for your freedom. I replied, they're not yours to miss anymore. I asked, do you miss them, or just the control you had? They reached out. I felt your strength hold the door shut. They said, I've changed. I said, so have they, and not for you. I told them, their silence is the answer to every question you never asked. They looked for the old version of you. I told them that person died healing. They wanted to revisit the past. I reminded them you burned that bridge with both hands. I said, they love themselves now. Be careful where you step. They asked if they still had a chance. I replied, only with your shadow. They said they still care. I said, so did the storm. I told them, you taught them pain. They taught themselves peace. I didn't let them near your heart. It's finally whole. Their words trembled. Yours are sacred. They reached out. I reached inward to protect you. I asked, would you love them if they never broke? They wanted closure. I handed them a mirror and walked away. I replied, they've risen. Don't try to pull them back down. They asked for forgiveness. I offered distance. They called it love. You called it survival. I told them they don't talk about you, not because they forgot, but because they healed. They said, I miss them. I said, they missed themselves more. I said, they gave you everything. You gave them silence. They saw your name and froze. You moved on without flinching. Their guilt came dressed as nostalgia. I didn't let it in. They asked what changed. I said, everything except your ego. I told them, they bloomed where you buried them. They said they didn't mean to hurt you. I said, intent doesn't erase impact. I replied, you were temporary. Their healing is permanent. They reached out. I made sure they never reached in. They wanted access. I gave them boundaries. They miss who you were. I protect who you've become. I said, they are not yours, not anymore, not ever again. They said you used to love them. I said, they still do, but now it's themselves. I replied with silence and it hurt more than your last goodbye. They wanted to talk. I gave them a closed door. They asked about your heart. I said, it's taken by peace. They begged for one more chance. I said, you had everyone. They reached out like nothing happened. I replied like everything did. They tried to explain. I said, you taught them to live without answers. I told them, you weren't just a breakup. You were a rebirth. They looked for a soft place to land. I gave them the truth instead. They asked if the door was still open. I said, it never was. You imagined that. Their apology smelled like regret, not change. They wanted redemption. I gave them reality. They reached out with guilt. I replied with your glow. I said, they don't fear your name anymore. They craved your softness. I reminded them, you reclaimed it. They miss the way you forgave. I told them, that version of them is sacred now. They saw your healing and mistook it for invitation. I said, they don't respond to ghosts anymore. They texted like no time had passed. I replied like you never looked back. I told them they gave you love. You taught them how to lose it. They asked if you still care. I said, they care too much now to let you back in. They reached out to rewrite history. I reminded them, you burned the book. I said, they don't wait for what already left. They asked if you miss them. I said, you miss who you thought they were. They came looking for the past. I showed them your present. I replied, they are no longer available for confusion. They said they were thinking about you. I said, they stopped thinking about you to finally breathe. I reminded them, you didn't break them. You revealed their strength. They said you were the best thing they lost. I said, and the best thing they'll never have again. They wanted to make things right. I said, healing isn't a reunion.